about football. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. This is the Mazz and Bads Show with Brandon Marrazzo and Charlie Baduini.
Folks, what's going on? And welcome back in to the Mazz and Bads Show, episode 3. Breaking some ground here on NBA free agency as we sit here on July the 2nd, 2024. NBA free agency opened 2 nights ago at around 6 p.m. on Sunday.
Before you get to that, listen, I got to know, bro. How was the family vacation?
Oh, family vacation? It was beautiful.
Yeah, come on.
It was beautiful.
You're a workaholic, bro. You want to just jump right into it? I want to know, how was it, bro? Where were you at? Seaside?
Me and the fam were in Seaside Heights. My parents were gracious enough to rent a house for the week. It was our first family vacation in a few years. Like, we hadn't done anything in a little bit, and it was nice to just get a week away, sit on the beach, get some color, enjoy the sun. But
You're
it was
glowing right now.
It was a very successful week of vacation for the Baduini family. That's for damn sure.
I love to hear it, man. It was a good weekend too. Right before that, I had a little grad party action. That was nice. So I appreciate my sister Kiara for putting that on, and all my family, all you guys coming out. I appreciate it. That was awesome. It's good. It's Portugal still alive in the Euros right now. Charlie went all the way to PKs yesterday, and Diogo Costa did not let up a single PK as Portugal advances to play France, where I'm not even going to lie to you, I'm a little nervous, but we'll see how that goes. But the best time in sports right now, in terms of like nothing actually being played, NBA free agency, unmatched.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and the thing is, and we'll get to this in a little bit, because, the new CBA has kind of, handicapped or handcuffed teams as to what they can, like, really do. Like, usually in years past, you'll see moves being made literally within the first 10 minutes of that window opening. This year, not so much. Is it because of that CBA? Is it because teams are starting to get scared to tamper and they don't want to risk losing picks and money because they talk to a player's agent before they really can? You know what I mean? So, but yeah, NBA free agency never really misses. And even without the glass-shattering breaking news at 6 p.m. on Sunday, there has been so much movement across the league. So much movement, Mazz.
On Leon back at it again.
Don Leon, Sam Presti was making moves. The Lakers are asleep at the wheel.
Yo, don't remind me, bro. And then let's be honest, bro. The worst draft I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, come on, bro. I can't even tell you who the top 10 picks were because they're nobodies, with all due respect. I think they're going to have like decent career as like role players, but like a lot of these guys, bro, I don't know. I know nothing about them. There's no star power for crying out. You got Bronny James, 4.4 points being drafted, and that was like the highlight of the entire draft. All right, this kid's 6'1" with a heart condition, and that's the premier player. In the second round, they took him too. We'll get to that in a bit, but
it's funny you mentioned that, because this was the first time the NBA draft was split between 2 days, and it was not necessary at all. They did not need to do that.
I have no clue why they did that, honestly. Shout out the cat in the back. But honestly, bro, I thought they'd done it before for some reason. Like, it just always felt like there was a 2-day. I think that's because the NFL draft is like a 3-day ordeal, but they really ain't need to do all that.
No, they really did not, because the draft was at like 4:00 the next day. It was just kind of silly. But regardless, I say we just hop right into the players that have been moving around, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the first trade that we saw last week came, I don't remember exactly when. It was probably earlier in the week, but the Bulls traded Alex Caruso, all defensive guard Alex Caruso, to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Josh Giddey, straight up. No picks involved on either side. There was no money changing hands, nothing. It was literally Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey. Mazz, what do you think about that?
I think, and we're seeing reports from it. The second I saw it, I thought, okay, Lonzo Ball is going to be on his way out of Chicago. Hasn't played in 2 years. They're trying to get some defensive help. I'm surprised. Apparently, they're trying to move on from Zach LaVine and just tear everything down. I heard DeMar DeRozan's probably going to be leaving soon, too. But I thought that, okay, Alex Caruso, get a defensive guard in there, try to pair with Levine. Maybe you can get something going, but turns out they're saying absolutely not. They're going basically full rebuild. I don't know, man. Giddey, though, he's going to be a playmaker for them. I think you had to tear it down. I don't think Zach LaVine is going to be pairing with any of this. They're planning for the future right now. On the other side, Caruso, I think, is a win now move. I think they needed defensive help for OKC for sure. I think they're trying to capitalize it. They have all these picks, right? But the Shai is the guy. And that's just what it comes down to. They've also picked up Hartenstein. They're trying to get some defensive help. I think OKC is going in win now moves directions. I think Chicago, like Brooklyn, as we'll get to, is hitting the reset button. It's just not working. Everybody who's useful is either too old or just really isn't fitting the scheming, and they got to just go with young talent. I like the move bringing in Giddey. He's going to be able to facilitate. He's going to grow on offense, and maybe him and Kobe White can be something spectacular. However, it's going to take a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with you on just about everything. I mean, in terms for Oklahoma City, this was a no-brainer trade. Like trading a young player who you were gonna have to pay in the next year or two for a win now piece in Alex Caruso, who's on a decent contract, who's gonna be a great perimeter defender for you, who's gonna knock down his threes, and that's where they kind of struggled in the playoffs that we saw against Dallas. Obviously, Luka and Kyrie kind of put him to work on defense. It was literally Lou Dort out there, and he had no help. So Caruso is instantly going to make their defense better, 100%. He slides right into that starting 2-guard spot for Chicago. So I don't hate getting Giddey for your team. I mean, yeah, it does feel like Lonzo's on his way out, but Kobe White showed some flashes this past year as the primary ball handler. I don't know why you'd want to take the ball out of his hands. I feel like you'd want to get him more reps. But I mean, if you're that high on Josh Giddey, me personally, I'm not. I mean, he seemed like a 6'7" guard in like a vacuum is great. Giddey, he just doesn't really do anything exponentially well. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have like a specific strength you can point to and say he does this at an elite level. And that could be just because he's still a young guy, he's still developing. But we don't know that for a fact. I think Chicago could have done better with this trade. I mean, you're telling me there wasn't a deal out there that was a young player and getting draft picks? Because there were reports that the Knicks and the Kings offered draft pick compensation for Alex Caruso, and the Bulls decided to go with just straight up Josh Giddey. Like, does that make sense to you, Mazz? Or can you see how an organization could be so high on a player like Giddey?
I think you're just thinking about potential, right? Like, I think they firmly believe, we could probably develop this guy. Let's see where he grows, where it's like, yeah, we could get into this draft pick, but the guy that we have circled on that draft board might not even fall to us, right? So this is a guy that we know that we're interested in. Clearly, we've seen some flashes that we like. Me personally, I'm not really a Giddey guy like that, but I understand moving on from Alex Caruso because he's a win now piece, but they are nowhere close to winning now.
Yeah, for sure.
He's going to help you down the stretch. He's going to be able to be kind of a poor man's version of Derek White, maybe the same level of defense. He's not hitting threes at the same consistency rate. Like, obviously, Derek White's a better player, but those are pieces that help you win championships, right? And you already talked about OKC struggling on the perimeter defense, which we've already known. I think it's a good move for them, They're trying to go all in as much as possible. I still think that they need to make just a couple of more moves because they're so inexperienced. Unless they have faith in these guys growing into it, I just don't know. But I would like to see them go out and make one more impact move. However, the Bulls got to tear it down. And I'm fine. Like, dude, the draft don't mean what it used to. Some guys don't even get signed getting, picked in the first round every now and then. Because it's like, man, I don't know if they're really going to fit. I'm fine with both of them. I understand wanting more draft compensation, but at the end of the day, if they feel that's their guy, so be it. And I'm just glad that they're finally going to be tearing it down.
Yeah, for sure. That's a long overdue rebuild in Chicago. I mean, they had a flash, a couple seasons ago where they were the first seed in the East through like the first few months of the season with Lonzo Ball manning the point. But ever since Lonzo went down, it's just been downhill for Chicago.
Absolutely.
But moving on to the next blockbuster, massive trade that happened, I believe either the next day or that night that the Caruso trade happened, it finally happened. The Brooklyn Nets and the New York Knicks made the first trade between the two teams since 1983. Isn't that unbelievable?
Who's that for? Who's that for?
You know, that's a great question. Let me
Go ahead, go find that. But nonetheless, I said you need to go get Paul George, right? I said you need to go get defense on the perimeter, right? You needed 3-point shooting. What did you get? You got the Kirkland's version of it, but still a great young piece. Yes, it's the Kirkland's version. He's not as good as Paul George. Don't sit there and tell me he's as good as Paul George. However, it is a better fit for the Knicks because you did not have to give up a main piece like Julius Randle, which I thought you should have done it to bring in a Paul George to go win now. But you somehow kept the core minus Hartenstein together and bring in a great young wing who loves playing defense. Actually, before it became this offensive outbreak with Brooklyn, was known for his defense in Phoenix. And now you literally have the Nova Knicks. This is absolutely ridiculous. 5 first-round draft picks?
Yeah, here, I'll break down. By the way, just a side note, that last trade was Len Elmore for a second-round pick in 1983. But
making waves in 83, man.
Regardless, the Nets received Bojan Bogdanovic on an expiring contract, so that's good for them. 4 unprotected first-round picks from the Knicks in 2025, 2027, 2029, and 2031. They got a 2025 Milwaukee first-round pick, a pick swap in 2028, and a second-round pick in 25. And the Knicks get Bridges and a 2026 second-round pick. So 5 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and a second-round pick. That's 7 picks in this trade. Which, just a side note real quick. The Grizzlies, last year at the trade deadline, tried to send 4 first-round picks to the Suns for Mikal Bridges before he was shipped off to Brooklyn in the Kevin Durant trade. For some reason, and I'm not saying that Mikal Bridges is an elite all-star player. He doesn't walk onto the Knicks being in their top 2 player conversation. He's like 3 or 4. He's there with OG. He might be the best role player in the NBA.
I think he's a guy that contributes to winning, right? I think Phoenix has gone down since he's left, even with the acquisition of guys like Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant. Like, dare I say, I think Brooklyn might have won that trade, and now to flip Mikal for the more picks, and now totally going full rebuild. They tried making Mikal the guy for a bit, but they knew, man, we are so far away from this. Let's not waste this young man. We can get a hell of a lot of compensation, and let's do it. And don't get me wrong, that is a ton of draft picks. And back in the day, we would be like, y'all are crazy. What are you doing? But this is the new era of the NBA. Draft picks don't mean nothing anymore. It's not like guys are actually developing in the league. And how many times you see someone like Kawhi Leonard, who's taken, I think, outside of the top 10, I think he was a 15th pick, right? Develop and be a superstar. Jimmy Butler, I think, was taken 22nd overall, was a superstar. The best player in the NBA was a second-round pick in Jokic. So picks don't mean what they used to. And you know me, I've never liked the draft in terms of I want to see who's getting drafted, but I don't want to live and die by the draft. If there's a chance to go out there and get someone that's battle-tested at this level, I think that's what you need to go do. And that's exactly what the Knicks did. And I know I've been hating on the Knicks. I've been busting you for a while about the Knicks, but I can't even lie to you. Did they give up a lot of picks? Yes, but it's a win-now move, and Don Leon is making Godfather moves where it's this is the window. All right, we're coming for it this year. We got probably a 2, maybe 3-year window to get this done, and I'm not even going to lie to you. If they can stay healthy, this is a team, I think, that is built to go back-to-back because they're dogs, they're hungry, and even when they're injured, you're seeing them get after it and fight. Granted, Indiana took them down, but come on, man. I think it's a totally different game just having Mikal Bridges on that court, let alone Julius Randle, let alone OG staying healthy, let alone Brunson not, what did he do? Did he fracture his hand or something?
Yeah,
something with the hand happened.
In Game 7, yeah.
Regardless of all that, just having Mikal Bridges might take you over a team like Indiana, who, by the way, right before we started, just signed James Wiseman to a 2-year deal.
I was actually kind of hoping the Knicks would pick him up because we need a backup center now, but regardless.
Yeah, you do.
So, yeah, a lot of picks. I think, number one, you were going to – because Mikal Bridges specifically requested to be traded to the Knicks. He said, I want to be a Knick. I want to go be with my boys,
Nova boys are there. Let me get after that.
Exactly. So the Knicks were gonna have to pay a tax, like in terms of the price, because it wasn't just gonna be a normal trade. It was I mean, obviously it didn't go as long as like for example, like a Damian Lillard trade, you know, like where that took all summer, but like they were going to hold him hostage, quote unquote. And the Knicks paid a premium to get him quick and fast. He's on such a great contract for the next 2 years. He's getting paid $20 a year, which is ridiculous for the terms of value that he brings to the court. And then number 3, the Knicks are where the Timberwolves were designed to take down Denver last year. I think this Knicks team is built to tear down Boston next year. Just the wing depth that they have. Anunoby, Bridges, Randall, like these are guys you can keep throwing at Boston over and over again and see who comes out on top. You know what I mean? Like I just think when you line these two teams up across from each other, man, it's if this happens in a 7-game series next playoffs, it's going to be quite the war. I'll say, like it'll be a battle.
No, absolutely, man. I think you make a really good point. I think the most important part with it, too, is that you got guys, like I said, go get Paul George, but like you've got a guy in his prime surrounded by guys who have just hit or in the middle of their prime. Like nobody's really aging like that on this roster. I mean, the only guy was really Bogdanovich, and you just got his big contract off the books, right? I mean, I'm not going to lie, for the first time, maybe ever, I'm convinced that the Knicks could win a championship right this second. If I had to put money on a team in the East right this second, it's the New York Knicks, honestly. No disrespect to Boston, but I think that this team is legitimately hungry. Listen, Brunson, it's the best contract in all of the NBA, and we laughed at it. And I still stand by laughing at it at the time, but like the way that they are just getting the money to work for them, still space to bring in some pieces if they need it. Nothing major, but core pieces, rotation pieces, getting that depth, because we do know that Tibbs' team sometimes struggle with injury, but hey, it happens. Man, I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm not saying I'm rooting for the Knicks, but I'm kind of rooting for the Knicks. Go Pants.
Go Knicks indeed. And I think the other thing that like we briefly touched on it is just the reuniting of the Villanova guys. Is Bridges is finally back together with these guys. I mean, we're still out there looking for Archinato, but I'm sure he'll be back on a vet's minimum deal. The Knicks traded in the last 2 years, but just how seamlessly Bridges is going to fit into the locker room with the Knicks. Because sometimes when you trade for a star, you sign a star, you get worried about how that's going to clash in the locker room. Like if the Knicks had traded for a Paul George or had found a way to get Donovan Mitchell here to New York, like it wouldn't have been as, like, I'm sure things would have, gotten to a point eventually where things are all right. But there would have been a transition process, because those guys aren't really, not that they have their own gravitas to them, or like that they expect people to be different when the team like you expect the team to be different when that player arrives. It's just that Mikal Bridges is going to walk in day one and he's already going to know half the team. You know what I mean?
I'm going to push back on you just a little bit with Paul George, just because we've never really seen him. Like, he's a star, a guy who's like borderline one at the height of his career, but probably a second. Like, we've never seen him really, oh, I'm going to go join Russ, I'm going to go join Kawhi. It's like, I kind of know that I'm the second guy. I'll step up when you need me to. But yeah, you see Donovan Mitchell take away touches with the Cavs and try to be like the center focus and really not even want to be in Cleveland to begin with, right? Like, we'll get to that later on too. So I get what you're saying there, but I got to disagree with you with Paul George. However, I think you are absolutely right. I think it would kind of be smart to go and get guys from the same program, the same areas, just they might gel together. Like there's something about people from the tri-state area that only Connecticut, New Yorkers, and people from North New Jersey understand. That Southern Connecticut, New York City, and Jersey, like they're all essentially the same people. We all debate on who's got the better pizza, this and that. We all know it's New Jersey nonetheless. But I think building a culture around, like, yes, they're all hoopers, but when you have guys from completely different territories, I don't know, man. I think this might be a new wave. I don't know if anybody else is going to hop on it, but I think getting guys that come from the same programs, same part of the country, I think that's how you might build chemistry faster than anything, instead of just, oh, let's go get the biggest names, which I've always been a proponent of. Like, let's see if they can get it going. But I don't know, man. I think this is a team first mentality. I don't know if I've seen that in the NBA in quite some time. Because even with Boston, you kind of had it. Oh, Jason, you number one, but is Jalen better? Here and there. Marcus Smart wanted to take touches. That's why they went and got Jrue Holiday, because he's not going to want to be, that guy while still being a leader. I don't know, man. This might be a whole new wave on how to construct teams, but I don't know. Maybe it's just a one-off, or it could be the next trend.
We'll see how it goes. The Nets now obviously entering a full rebuild. They're going to keep selling off the pieces that they have. And the Knicks now might be the deepest team in the NBA, because you had Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Hart playing, in Josh Hart's case, 48 minutes a night in the playoffs. Those guys are now coming off the bench for you in the playoffs, barring health. So October cannot come fast enough for a Knicks fan like myself. Mazz, as for you, October can't come slow enough, as the Lakers they've made some moves in terms of personnel. They hired a new coach, they made some draft picks, but no free agency motion so far. So let's start from the beginning. JJ Reddick has been hired as the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Obviously, he's not their number one choice. Dan Hurley was supposed to be the number one option for the Lakers in terms of coaching wish lists and wants, but they have to settle on JJ Reddick. You want to push back on that?
Half correct. You are half correct. So before they knew that Hurley was even available, Rob Pelinka has been high on JJ Reddick the entire time. Yes. That's the guy that we want to go with. There was some, I saw Woj put out something saying that there was some kind of meeting or event going on in Chicago, right? And that's where Pelinka got to talk with Reddick, and apparently he was very impressed by him. And that became his number one choice, and looking at the coaching outlay of who you can bring in, that would be my number one choice too. I'd rather take a risk with him than the guys that have underperformed multiple times. So I was like, okay, it's probably going to be JJ. I'm going to be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of JJ on ESPN anyway. I think he disrespects the old timers way too much for a guy who only put up 12 points and never won a championship. Come on, bro. Elgin Baylor would bust you. Jerry West was absolutely right about everything that he said. Havlicek would bust you. You and Bob Cousy be a nice matchup, but come on, bro. Slow your roll a little bit. However, I've said this before. If Dan Hurley becomes available, which he kind of did, all right, you become infatuated with that, which Pelinka was. You got to do the due diligence. This guy just went back-to-back with natty titles, right? You have to make a significant approach to pull him from just staying where he's basically a god. If he gets this three-peat, he might be cemented as the greatest college coach of all time. And I know a lot of people are going to hate me for that, but let's be honest, going back-to-back is hard enough. You three-peat, unbelievable, especially with the influx of players all the time. He just lost 2 top guys to the draft. This isn't the NBA where you can kind of keep your core together. It's the constant rotation of recruiting and bringing in new talent. But you're the Lakers. I've said this before. Your number one asset to being billionaires. You got to make this happen, because the basketball team is your number one asset. If you think that Hurley's the guy, you cannot let him leave that meeting without signing on the dot. You saw Detroit just eat a giant contract in Monty Williams because they went, okay, we thought that was the guy. For whatever reason, they're coming right off of it. I still think that's a horrible move from them. I hope that the Lakers would have taken a conversation, but apparently they didn't. But nonetheless, you lose out on Hurley. You bring in JJ. I know he's going to be big on analytics. I know he has a relationship with Bron. They just drafted Bron's son. So I think, and Bron has already said that he's willing to take a pay cut if they bring in a certain player. He mentioned DeMar DeRozan, which I don't really know if that's what I would want. I kind of want someone that is a little more proficient at shooting threes. I know that they just picked up the kid from Tennessee who is 3-and-D, but I want someone that can score more so from the perimeter. I know the mid-game range can be helpful, but I'm a little concerned about the total age of the Lakers if they were to bring in DeMar DeRozan. But at least it tells me you locked up LeBron now, which you need to keep him because what are you really going to get for him, right? I don't know what the Suns going to be. We'll get to that in a second, but nonetheless, when it comes to JJ Redick, I'm not even that mad. Let's see where it takes us. What's the worst that happens? I mean, I don't think we're not the 7th seed anymore.
Yeah. Like, I mean, how much worse can it get from Darvin Ham, right?
I really know. Listen, I'm sorry. Darvin Ham was not the guy. The second I saw it, I was like, oh, Giannis said that he liked him, but I didn't think that was the guy to begin with. I would have liked a more high-profile name. I still wish I had a more high-profile name. But if JJ's going to bring a whole new approach, there's going to be more three-point shooting. I think there's actually going to be an offensive game plan that I can get behind. And the number one thing that I'm ecstatic for, supposedly they are prioritizing Anthony Davis when it came to the coaches hiring. Reddick is going to be putting an emphasis on Davis. LeBron's been saying for the past 2 to 3 years, I don't need to be the number one option. We should be running it through Davis, but yet they keep on coming back to Bron, whether it's because of the injuries or just because you have better trust in him, what have you. I am finally excited to see the Lakers take this organization without having to completely rebuild into a complete opposite direction because we have been trending the wrong way the entire time. I don't care that they were in the Western Conference Finals. They were walking into wars with water guns, right? Like, I don't want to see that no more. Let's get some actual firepower. And for the first time, let's have some good offensive scheming because they even won in the bubble because of defense, and more defense. The offense was not that great. I'm hoping we can have a high efficient offense moving forward with JJ Redick. And if not, maybe Dan Hurley will be ready to come back around after he tries chasing greatness this next year.
Possibly. We'll see. I also don't hate the JJ Redick hire. I like you said, Mazz, I think he's going to help your offense. The staff he's building out is going to be full of veteran coaches, and he's going to have a lot of guys in his ear helping him along the way. It's going to be it's boom or bust. I think it's either going to work great or it's not going to work, and Redick's gone in a year, and then we're back to square one. But I don't hate the hire. I mean, considering who else was out there in the coaching pool this cycle, it would have just been another retread. It would have been a Borrego, would have been a Bickerstaff or a Kenny Atkinson, but we'll get to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And don't get me wrong, I don't think I would have minded Atkinson, right? No disrespect to the other guys, but it was taken, I feel like, almost the same risk. Like, I know what Bickerstaff is going to be. He's going to help you rebuild a little bit. There's going to be a threshold. And unless you bring in some major moves, he's not getting you over the hump. Borrego the same way. Like, he's got stars, and they weren't really doing nothing down in New Orleans, So why not take the entire new, fresh approach? Why not give it? And everybody's like, oh, man, you see he's coming in here and he's already cussing. Dude, who cares? You literally just told this guy he's the second option like he didn't already know that. Of course he's going to be a little bit annoyed on it. I hate that it's like, oh, they hired the podcaster as if this guy hasn't been doing analysis for ESPN and a bunch of major games also, on First Take. And
also played 15 years in the NBA.
And like I said, I respect him from the standpoint of I think he's going to be a good coach. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Greg Popovich or the next Steve Kerr, but I think for what you saw out there, this was the direction to go. And I know that I was coming at him before, and that was his legacy as a player. All right. He was a good 3-point shooter. He was a nice role piece, sometimes in the starting lineup. I'm just saying he wasn't better than some of the greats. But as a coach, let's take the risk. Why not? There's really nothing else out there. Except unless, I would have liked Monty. I'm not even going to lie. But that wasn't a possibility at the time until the 12th hour, But here we are.
So sticking with the Lakers, Bronny James drafted with the 55th overall pick. Dalton Connect was their first round pick, as you mentioned, the forward from Tennessee. But the draft pick that's gotten everyone's attention is going to be Bronny James, and he was a late second round pick. Mazz, how did you feel about your favorite team using the 55th overall pick on LeBron James Jr.?
I didn't mind it at first, and some context clues came out, and it pissed me off. I ain't gonna lie to you, right? Starting with just the actual pick, I like the kid connect, right? I don't know much about him. I saw some highlights. I saw some stats, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you I was watching Tennessee basketball last year. That would be a lie, right? But for what they're saying about his game, from the highlights that I saw, I think there's some real potential there. I'm hoping he can be a good 3-and-D guy. I like the height. I like the shot. I think that's a solid first-round pick, especially for the value that they got him. Coming back to Bronny, I did not hate it for the sole fact of I hate this draft class. I'm sorry. Like, there's nobody really standing out. This kid was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. He's got the pedigree. Why not take the risk on it? However, I think everybody does need to slow their roll. There's absolutely some nepotism at play, but let's not act like that hasn't happened before. Everybody keeps on telling me, oh, Donovan Mitchell, who apparently just requested a trade from Milwaukee for Lord knows whatever reason. No, that's the only reason why you're going to be staying in the league, buddy. Like, but even with Donovan being picked up by them, right? That was also the age and time where Giannis kind of changed everybody's mentality of let's just go try to get the best athletic body. We think that we can mold them like every team's the Spurs. No, you're not. You're not going to be able to teach everybody to shoot. But I understand that almost more than Bronny. I don't think if this was as weak of a draft class, Bronny would not have been picked up so soon. I'm not saying he would have never made the NBA, but come on, bro. Those stats over at USC. And I did watch a little bit of USC basketball this year solely just to see what he was capable of. And I'm sorry, he did not look great at times. All right, the stat line, let's just be honest, for 20 minutes of play, atrocious. He also was coming off of a heart condition, and I'm not making fun of him for that. I'm a little concerned of that. And here's my problem, though, too. Sharif O'Neal had a very similar situation. Was supposed to go to, first off, was thinking about going to Oregon with Bol. I think him and Bol were going to link up in college, and then Bol ends up going to Oregon. He was supposed to go to Arizona. I believe the heart condition happens. He transfers to LSU. My timeline might be a little messed up, but he ends up at LSU, underperforms. He's 6'9", and Shaq's boy did not get into the NBA, and he's got a better build than Bronny. However, Bronny did have a great shooting display at the combine, apparently. Supposedly shot the lights out of everybody. Everybody loved the hard work, loved the determination, loved that he's trying to make a name for himself. And I'm like, let's go. That's what I'm talking about. I love this. And I was all for Bronny James. Even though he's 6'1", he's got a 6'7" wingspan. I think that's going to be some good defense. I honestly think he could kind of be a better version of Chris Dunn. You know, just come in off the bench, give you some good perimeter D, maybe hit some shots. I don't think he's sliding into the starting lineup with the Lakers. Absolutely I think we're going to see him. You know, he might even go down to the G League. My problem is that when Clutch Sports, you know, Rich Paul puts out the statement, supposedly, don't draft him. We will send him to Australia. I'm going to be honest. If I was an NBA exec and I was even considering this guy, which some were, I would have been like, man, screw you. I'm taking it. And I don't even care if you want to send me anybody down the line. You don't run this league. All right? If I wanted to take him, I would have taken him. That's just me personally. I don't know if the reports, if they had interest or not, or if they just didn't want to ruffle the feathers. I know that they're a big agency, but like, man, you're not going to tell me who I'm going to take the risk on or not. That could have been a generational player. I have a problem with the Eli Mannings of the world, with this move, and anybody else who you hear Deion Sanders be like, oh, my boys are only going to go to certain teams. Otherwise, they're just not going to go. Bro, it is an honor to be drafted. You are getting paid to play a children's game. We love it. It's entertaining. All right, and you absolutely deserve to be compensated, right? But initially getting drafted, how dare you tell an organization who's going to make your dream come true, you absolutely cannot get on this team. We don't want to be here. Do not waste your time. I don't want nothing to do with your organization. That's just ridiculous to me, man. I think if you get drafted or if you put out statements like that, either play for that team and play out that rookie contract, or you should be blackballed from the league personally. Like what Eli Manning did, I really felt like if you're not going to play for San Diego, bruh, you're not playing in this league ever. And until that contract is played out, I don't care if it's 10 years from now, you're not allowed back in this league until that contract's paid out. That's just me personally.
So I was going to push back on you a little bit until you made the point that you can't stand it at any level. Because I was going to say, like this is not the first time in any draft, and whether it be basketball or football or any of the professional leagues, where an agent wasn't trying to get his player to a certain situation, a certain spot. I personally don't mind it all that much. I mean, if you think you're going to succeed in this place and you really want to go there, try and do what you can to get to that spot. Me personally, I don't mind it. But the other thing is, everyone's always talking about, oh, Bronny averaged 4.8 points in college. How is he getting drafted like this? A.J. Johnson, who was the Bucks' first-round pick, around 20th overall, averaged 3 points per game overseas. The stats don't matter. People who say, oh, because he averaged this many points per game or this rebounds or assists, doesn't mean anything, because the NBA draft isn't based off of stats. You could drop, Mazz, you made this point before, you could drop 20 points in March Madness, and that's not going to raise or lower your draft stock. That does not matter. What they're looking at is like you said, body, is your length, your width, what's your build like, what's your athleticism level, do you have a good jumper? Like, does that translate to the pro level? You know what I mean? Like, and I just think, I think Bronny's, like, the LeBron hate has gotten so sick that it's now bleeding down to his son, obviously, and people just don't want to see this. But even though this is one of the coolest things that's ever happened in sports in recent memory.
I think it's absolutely cool that they're going to be playing together if he gets into a regular season game. Like, that's awesome, But at the same time, I hate the context with stuff too, right? Because I am going to hate on the 4.4 points per game, because we sat there and we said that Michael Jordan's son was a bust. He averaged more points, more rebounds, and more assists than Bronny did, and that's not being looked at as a bust. Like,
and he also played 4 seasons.
Yep. Sure. I got you there. But he also wasn't drafted, right?
Correct. Because he wasn't good enough.
That's the difference. But you can make the argument that Bronny might not be good enough. We don't know how it's going to turn out.
Bronny, you just said yourself. He was a 5-star recruit out of high school. He played at USC in the Pac-12. Where did Michael Jordan's son play college basketball?
UCF. It don't matter, man.
Yes, it does. It matters.
It don't matter.
It
No,
matters.
it don't.
He wasn't a 5-star recruit out of high school.
Listen, don't act like USC is the UConn of basketball.
It's not, but it's better than UCF.
Sure, but it's different circumstances. I'm just saying, I don't like. And listen, I'm not even for drafting guys based off of athletic builds. I'm not for let's see what we can mold him to, because I don't trust more than half of these staffs to develop those guys like that. How many times have we seen guys? Look at Kwame Brown. Nada. Washington couldn't get nothing out of it. The Lakers couldn't get nothing out of it. That was a guy who's supposed to be the next great one, but nobody could develop him. That's part his fault and part the organization's fault, right? So for me personally, I think dropping 20 points in March Madness should get you more looks like it than it definitely used to back in the day. Now they really don't care, as we said. I wish it was based more off of ability and what you've shown as a resume than off of potential, but that's just not the world that we live in when it comes to this, right? So I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying, if his name was not James, I don't know if he gets the look this year. He probably makes it the next year or the year following. But if his last name is not James, and more importantly, if LeBron James isn't in an opt-out year, I don't know if they take the risk. I really don't.
I don't know either, and I guess we'll never know because it's already done.
Matter.
What's done is done. But sticking with the Lakers and the Jameses, yes, LeBron did in fact opt out of his contract with the Lakers. He does intend to re-sign with Los Angeles, but he wanted to take a pay cut so the Lakers could sign someone with the mid-level exception. When the report came out, this was prior to free agency, the names that were mentioned were Klay Thompson, Jonas Valanciunas, and James Harden. All 3 of those guys are off the market, so it looks like LeBron's taking the max again.
Ask me who I wanted the most out of those 3.
Guess or ask you?
You can guess. Go ahead.
All right. Valanciunas.
It was absolutely Valanciunas. I would have loved James Harden too, but the defense is suspect. But that's exactly what I've been, bitching about. I need 3-point shooting. I need offensive scoring. I need someone that can take over. But I also need some center help, right? I like Valanciunas. He can score a bit. He's a better version of Hartenstein, right?
Yeah.
I would have absolutely loved that. I've been high on Valanciunas since he was back in Toronto. I love that guy's game. He's just like an old school center that has found a way to modernize his game. Not completely modernize, but I think he would have been a solid addition. Apparently, we offered Klay more money and more years than that 3-year, $50 million deal that he got from Dallas. But he saw something else. I'm a little upset, but I'm also not that upset too because Klay got the injury history. I don't know where we're going to go from here, though. I'm not even going to lie to you. When I first saw that LeBron opted out, I was just like, bro, don't even tell me. I swear to God. If you're holding us for ransom after everything we just did, are you serious? But he's did right by us, and I appreciate him. Let's get an actual player that wants to be here, and let's go get that 5th chip for him. Go tie the league record with 18 and reestablish yourself tied for the greatest dynasty of all time, the greatest organization. Because we've had better dynasties. I said what I said.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get some more of Klay a little bit later. I did read a report yesterday that the Lakers, they offered him the mid-level exception, and it was going to be a sign-in trade. I mean, all right, I'll just drop this now. So Klay went to Dallas for 2 second-round picks. That was the sign-in trade. Yep. The Lakers offered D'Angelo Russell in the sign-in trade, and the Warriors said, we're good.
Yeah, I can't even blame them.
Yeah. So
what did you want? Just a slightly better Jordan Poole? You're already off that wave.
Exactly. So moving off the Lakers for now, which I'm sure we'll touch on them some more throughout the rest of the show. But the next major trade that went down last week prior to the deadline was the Atlanta Hawks finally starting to tear it down just a little bit. The first piece has been shipped off, and that is Dejounte Murray headed to the New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans received Dejounte Murray, of course, and the Hawks received Larry Nance Jr., Dyson Daniels, and 2 first-round picks. And now you're looking at a whole new Pelicans team. You got Dejounte Murray and CJ McCollum backcourt.
I like the move for them. I actually wish that the Lakers could have found a way to acquire his talents. That's somebody that fits all the boxes that I've kind of been complaining about. For the Pelicans, and this has to work out for them. Otherwise, they're going to have to be tearing it down. I don't even know if Brandon Ingram's going to necessarily be there, right?
Yeah.
So Zion, how is that going to work out or not? When he's on the court, he's absolutely phenomenal, but sometimes he's not always on the court. You picked up a veteran like CJ, but they're still missing firepower. I hope that this could be the piece. However, we've seen them have guys all around. I felt like talent literally everywhere, and it just not work out.
Yeah,
and I'm afraid that they're not going to get over the hump again. You know, they're making big moves, but I just don't think it's the right moves. I think it's time to move on from a BI and get some compensation. For the Hawks, I don't even care about who they brought in. They were just trying to match contracts for me, probably. For sure. It's the 2 first-round picks. You need to tear it down. You need to get Trae Young out of there, too, because he's just not working. I saw some rumors with Utah, but I don't think the deal is going to go through. But, yeah, it's been time to tear it down in ATL, and let's see what they can do. It's nothing wrong with hitting the reset button. You don't want to waste it too long. Hit the stove while it's hot and get that compensation before these guys underplay and devalue themselves.
Yeah. And where I think the Pelicans really got better, and I agree with you what you said about the Hawks. It's long past time. But this is an interesting stat. The Pelicans were 0-24 this past season when trailing entering the fourth quarter. So bringing in a guy like Dejounte Murray who can be your closer, and he has plenty of experience playing that role. I think he's going to help them tremendously. I don't know if this is going to, if they still have Brandon Ingram next year, maybe second round, but it depends on the health of Zion Williamson. That's really all it boils down to.
And even with it, man, like I said, I just don't know if it's enough. I like BI a lot, but I really think for this organization, they're better on trading him and getting some compensation. And if Zion's not going to play a plethora of games this year, you got to move on from him too. Your 2 top guys haven't really been top caliber, and they're young still. So it's you can't put all the pressure on it, but yeah, it's getting to that time where they're going to have to move on from the biggest names.
Moving onwards, Paul George was entering a player option in the last year of his contract. He opts out, and he is now signed with the Philadelphia 76ers on a 4-year deal worth up to $200 million, I believe. And Mazz, does this move the needle for you for Philly? Have they gotten closer to Boston? Have they gotten past the Knicks, or are they still behind them?
So it moves the needle absolutely. It doesn't get them past the Knicks, I think I think it
It's
put
tough.
them
It's tough.
closer. It all depends on Joel Embiid and if he's going to be healthy. That's literally what it comes down to. It also depends on the center help that I think the Knicks are still going to be looking to bring into. It does not move them past Boston, but it moves the needle for me. You needed a wing scorer. You went out there and got one of the best. I know he's older, but we're seeing guys extend their career more than ever. Yes, he's had some injury problems, but when he's on the court, this guy is putting up the same stat line that the Clippers' main guy, Kawhi Leonard, was putting on, right? And in the last couple of years, not the entire time that they've been there, but Paul George has been on that court more than Kawhi, it feels like, right? Putting up similar stat lines, this is still a premier player. He's not going to be a number one for a team. He's coming into this as arguably the third option right now, borderline two, and being elevate that. And if Embiid goes down, which no disrespect, I'm sure is going to happen at some point, he might even need to be a number one option and is capable of it every now and then, just not through the entire season. This is a hell of a great move. It's even also better that they got Tobias Harris finally off the books as he's going up to Detroit now, right? Which that is such a Detroit move. So funny. But nonetheless, I love this move. I like Paul George. I wish Paul George was a Laker, to be honest with you. He's a quality talent. Is he a guy that never reached the height that people thought he was going to get to? No. However, let's not act like there isn't guys during that time named Kevin Durant, LeBron James, the emergence of Steph Curry, let alone the plethora of talent that came in and started making names for themselves as too, like Kawhi, and then eventually Giannis, then eventually, Jokic and Luka. Like, there's just so much good talent out there, but let's not act like he hasn't been a borderline top 10 guy in the NBA when he's on the court.
You're 100% right. Paul George is a great player. He is on, if you want to make an all decades roster that goes 11 deep, the 2010s, he's on that roster. Paul George got a lot of love and respect for him. But this is not the Paul George that was in Indiana. This is not the Paul George that was in Oklahoma City. And this is not even the Paul George that started his time with Kawhi in Los Angeles with the Clippers. Paul George is 34 years old, and he just signed a 4-year deal that's going to take him up to his age 38 season. The Sixers have about a year or so to make this work and maximize this window while they can, because by the time Paul George is 36, 37, Embiid's going to be 33, 34. What is that Embiid going to look like and compared to the one now that misses, a lot of games as it is? Like, the Sixers have a chance here to be a great team next year. If you're asking me and being honest, I think they're just about neck and neck with the Knicks. If you have a healthy Embiid and our current center situation, I think Boston's still better than both of them. But that's your top 3 teams in the East right there, barring health. As long as the Sixers are healthy, they're up there. But the second they lose Embiid, the second they lose Paul George for a little bit, or even Maxey, they got trouble. They got some big time trouble.
No, I hear you, but honestly, looking at what was out there, right? You're looking at Embiid, and he might not even be in Philly much longer, too. There's been rumblings of them moving on from him just because of the injury history. This is we need to cash in now. What is out there? Maxey's emerging. We're going to have him for a while, but Embiid, each year, it's getting a little more risky, I feel like, right? He's bounced back from the beginning of his career and has gone on to, be an MVP and a scoring champion, but every year, it's like, oh, man, this is a move where they've pushed all in. I still think that they're going to go out there and try to make something else happen with their depth. I think they absolutely need to. They're not surpassing Boston, right, in terms of the talent that they're going to be able to acquire. However, their stars are capable of reaching greater heights than Boston stars when they are healthy. And that's just my personal opinion.
I won't push back on that. I actually kind of like that take.
But I'm with you, bro. The best ability is availability. If they ain't on the court, it don't mean nothing.
It doesn't matter. Does not matter.
I cannot blame the city of brotherly love to go out there and try to get all in on it, because let's be honest, Miami was giving them trouble for how long? Milwaukee's been giving trouble in that conference. Boston's on top right now. The Knicks have arguably the best core out of any of them. I just think Boston probably has the better depth. But dare I say, they have the best trio when healthy in terms of star power.
Yeah, I mean, you could say Tatum, Brown, and throw in like any of Porzingis, White, and Holiday, but it's not awful. No, it's not awful.
You know, Embiid, Maxey just emerged. Maxey was basically the one for that team last year.
He really was.
You know? And with Paul George. Now, don't get me wrong, right? We did talk about the injury history, so I understand why people would have Boston. But I'm just talking about like the height of the names here. Embiid's been a bigger name than both Brown and Tatum. Paul George, at his height, and still right now, is kind of like around like that Tatum-Brown conversation. Like, on his worst day, I think you compare him to Jaylen Brown, just older, right? So, and no disrespect to the Knicks, but, bro, he's a bigger name than anybody but Brunson, and that's just because of last year.
Yep.
Where I'm at with it. And I like Milwaukee, but they don't have a third. They got Dame, they got Giannis, they got the two biggest names for me, right? And Miami's got Jimmy. I don't even want to hear about Hero. Great for Bam. We love Bam, but we're talking star power at its highest. Philly has it, but time is not on their side, and neither is the medical report.
Yeah, and I think it's safe to say this is their last chance with Embiid. If they want to try and win a title with the process that started almost a decade ago at this point, it's now or never. It's now or never.
Yeah, if I don't think it's gonna be this year, but you know what? I think it's with this piece, you got 2 years with it, tops. Absolutely, like that is squeezing the juice out of the lemon completely.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they saw what the Knicks did. They saw how Boston's built. They saw what the East is going to look like. I think they at least had to make the attempt for it, and I appreciate the effort, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
So moving on to another aging former All-Star, a guy who is for the first time ever leaving the team that he was drafted to. Klay Thompson has finally parted ways with the Warriors. It was a long and tough process these last few years for Klay. He was moved to the bench. He was shuffled in and out of the lineup. He changed positions from shooting guard, small forward. There was a lot going on, and it all culminated with Klay Thompson feeling disrespected by the Warriors, offering him a 2-year, $40 million contract, and he said, "I'm out." He was talking to Dallas, the Lakers, the Clippers, and Philly, and he eventually settled on Dallas on a 3-year, $50 million deal. And Mazz, I don't know about you, when I'm looking at Dallas, I'm worried about the defense, but Klay having open looks off of Luka and Kyrie is quite the thought.
Yeah, Charlito, I'm absolutely with you. I'm still worried about the defense, bro. I love Klay Thompson. This is a guy who's arguably the second greatest shooter of all time, right? Yes, Reggie Miller is the bigger star out of the two. Ray Allen was lethal, but Klay off a catch and shoot, who's better in league history? I really don't think there is anybody. You know, there's a reason why it wasn't the Splash Bro, it was the Splash Bros. He's got the record for most threes in a game. He's been shooting a high efficiency clip. I know he's been going down. I can't even blame him for feeling disrespected, right? However, here's the problem. We were just talking about Philly with the injuries, right? Klay's had the last couple of years, man. It's been rough for him trying to get back after it. I understand. I mean, like, bro, I can't even name who the starting shooting guard for the Warriors was last year, you know, that took his spot. I'll be like, bro, are you kidding me? After what I've done for this team, the back seats that I've taken, the championships I've contributed to, I actually got you marketability, and don't say that I didn't, because you just came out and said, as an organization, we can't wait to retire my number 11. I know I'm getting a statue because I've done more for this organization than its best player in the history of it, Chris Mullin, ever did, and Wilt Chamberlain ever did. No disrespect. I was a part of the dynasty. I was the second to third piece on making us relevant, and the reason why LeBron James doesn't have a better career, all right? We did that. I was part of that. I contributed to that. And what do? You go and get some no-name guy who's, he's younger than me, maybe playing a little bit better defense than me. But let's be honest, bro. I tore my Achilles in the finals for you and still went out and hit my damn free throws just on the off chance I might be able to come back into the game because I wasn't sure if it was torn or not. And this is how you're going to replay me? I felt like they made the business move. I was just talking from a Klay perspective there, and a fan of Klay Thompson. But if you want me to keep it 1,000 with you, they had to move on. They still have a window to win. This isn't a, Kobe Bryant moment with the Lakers where, hey, we really ain't got nothing cooking right now, but Kobe, we do appreciate you, so we're going to give you this bag because we got to spend some of this money. So here's this money as a thank you for what you did, and our roster's not really going anywhere. So we're going to celebrate you and make sure that you finish up a Laker. Where Klay, it's different. Steph still in MVP conversation when he's on. There's a window here. There are only a couple of moves, especially with getting Chris Paul off the books now. There is a window to get back into the championship and make some worthwhile moves. That core that they got, I think, can be a core piece on the way to the championship because we've seen them use arguably worse talent to getting into championships. However, they did have bigger stars at the top, right? But getting this money cleared up, I can't even blame the Warriors, man. They know that the window is fading because when are you going to get a player like Steph Curry ever again? The answer, never.
Okay, so here's my problem with Klay and this whole situation and why I'm never going to fault a player for chasing the money. Absolutely not. And Klay has every right to go and try and maximize his value as best he can when he hits the open market. However, I don't understand how you could be so petty and so I'm kind of like searching for the words here. Like he was just being very dramatic in this whole process with the Warriors. I feel like we're talking about a team that Klay, as you mentioned, he tore his Achilles in Game 6 of the 2019 Finals. The following year, tore his ACL during rehab and practice, and the Warriors didn't bat an eye. They still gave him a max contract after the Achilles tear. Going into that summer, they gave him that max contract. They were paying him $30 million a year, $35 million a year, $37, $40, and $43 over the last 5 years. That's not enough goodwill built up within the organization to buy yourself some sort of, hey, we took care of you. Can you take care of us and help us out here and maybe take a little bit less to stay with the team that you've been with your entire career? And he said, no. You know what I mean? Which is his right. That's absolutely his right. But I just think I think the Warriors took such good care of Klay during his time, especially those few years of really bad injuries. I feel like he kind of, I don't know. If I was a Warriors fan, I would feel a little spurned right now. That's all I'm saying.
So I actually heard, I believe it was the pre-game and post-game guy for ESPN Radio was talking on ESPN New York. They were interviewing him. Forgive me, I forget his name, but he was talking about like how bittersweet it is, like seeing the rise of Klay. And, he never once mentioned about like Klay being selfish. I don't think they're feeling that out in the Bay. I think they're just, man, it is sad to see it happen, but now the band is not getting back together. All right, we're keeping the main singer. We're keeping, the drummer, but our guitarist is gone, and they got to go and get a new guitarist. And that's what it comes down to, right? And he, at the time he went over to bases as KD came over, but I think this is a guy who is struggling with, I am not what I used to be. They know it. I have not given up on it yet. I still believe in my ability. I'm going to Dallas because they were in the finals. And if I can be that, if they add me and they get over the hump, I prove to you that I had more value than what you were willing to give me. They still saw that value in me, and I'm still useful. But, man, the facts are the facts. That injury history is nasty. He's not what he used to be on defense. The shooting's still going to be there, right?
It's the defense.
But his biggest asset was being able to pick up the best offensive threat on the perimeter when they needed him to. And he can't do that no more. Even so, we just talked about it. There's still, even with this signing, the biggest question mark, where is Dallas's defense? They got better offensively, sure, but are they going to be able to guard anybody? Unless Luka gets on a program that's going to turn him into Kawhi Leonard for the Spurs, I don't know where this defense goes without more moves.
You're sleeping on my guy Quentin Grimes, but I'll I'll leave it at that. Once a Knick, always a Knick.
Quentin Grimes is going to make the difference, Charlie, on the perimeter. Yes, all hail the Lord, Quentin Grimes, the savior of defense for the Mavericks. Get the out of here.
Listen. He's still developing. He locked up Donovan Mitchell in the playoffs a few years ago, so put some respect on his name, all right?
If I'm sleeping on Quentin Grimes, the Warriors are sleeping on Gary Payton II, all right? Because he's a better defender.
All right. Moving on to another Warrior, another aging all-star, another veteran in a new situation. Chris Paul.
Oh my God.
The point guard, Chris Paul, signs a 1-year, $11 million deal with the San Antonio Spurs to team up with Victor Wembanyama. Now, this wasn't always supposed to happen. He wasn't supposed to be a free agent. The Warriors were trying to trade him, but they couldn't find a landing spot for him because he had a $30 million salary that no team wanted to pick up for a 38-year-old Chris Paul. And there was a trade offer that was reported that the Warriors reportedly turned down, and that was Zach LaVine and a first for Chris Paul and Andrew Wiggins. The Warriors said no.
And that's interesting. I understand why they said no, but like honestly, Zach LaVine could have filled that Klay Thompson-esque role where yes, Klay's the better 3-point shooter, but Zach's been known to go get a bucket. You could make an argument that Zach's the better offensive player just in terms of complete offense, right? And I think Zach could lock in to defense under Kerr. Like they've been known to get guys to play above their capability of what they're known for on defense. I would have liked that deal, but I think just giving up Wiggins, if they're going to give up Wiggins, they're going to want more compensation where they were like, listen, we're just trying to get this big contract off the books, and it is what it is. They had to eat a ham sandwich right there on the Chris Paul stuff. But I think Paul with Wembanyama is exactly, this is not a win now move. No. I'm sorry. I love Chris Paul. He can absolutely contribute to winning, but he's 38 years old. And for the Spurs, this is, let's go get a guy who can legitimately put Wembanyama in the best positions to succeed. This is all about Wembanyama and the young team's growth. This is a guy who we're going to bring in a veteran. This is how you conduct yourself as a true professional. This is a winning mentality. Here's how you develop it. This is a guy who takes practice very seriously. This is how you come in every day and is going to be a model player while helping them develop on the court. That is all that this is for me right now. They ain't going nowhere. I'm sorry. Wembanyama still got like 2 years, 3 years before he is the best player in the NBA. And I'm telling you, he's going to be. There's a reason why they call him the alien. There's a reason why it's his logo. Bruh, he is absolutely ridiculous. They're putting him in limited minutes, and this kid is killing giant. I don't even want to say kid. This giant is killing everybody. This is the progression of Kevin Durant. This is Kevin Durant if Kevin Durant played elite defense because his shot blocking is insane. This is Kevin Durant taller. This is like, dude, he is a generational player. I didn't want to believe the hype, but I saw it with my own eyes. He was a one-man army out there, and if they had a better team, good God, Denver better be watching out and watching their backs. The Dallas Mavericks better be watching their backs because San Antonio is going to be celebrating more championships in a little bit because they're a competent organization, top 2 organization in terms of front office run for me. I don't know if Pop's going to be along for the ride when Wembanyama's winning championships.
We'll
I think that's not happening, but I do know that they're going to find the next Greg Popovich or at least a somewhat level of competency to be able to steer this ship. They're that good of an organization. Listen, guys don't stay around too long. They bring in guys, they get the usage out of them, and when it's time to move on, they do it.
Want me to tell you who
they made a move right now for development?
Want me to tell you who that coach is going to be in a few years when Popovich is ready to step aside? It's Steve Kerr. Ooh. Steve Kerr's contract will be up with the Warriors, and he will coach Wembanyama's prime. That's just my Chuck Stradamus take right there. But
so, Chucky boy, let me talk to you right now. Would that be soft to you?
No, because Kerr is a Popovich disciple.
No, I get that, but here's my thing, right? you took over the Warriors job when it was very enticing, right? Mark Jackson does not get the love he deserves for what he's done for that team, right? So he takes over that job in a very comfortable spot. And granted, he took it to heights we didn't even think was capable of taking it, right? So I'm not going to take that away from him. However, in that couple of years, Curry's going to be declining. The core's split up. It's going to be a little bit harder unless you bring in the right guys with it. And if you abandon ship to go get on the next wave, that's the same thing as Kevin Durant, just a coaching status. But ain't nobody going to complain about it.
No,
I'm going to be honest, that's kind of soft.
100%. But also at the same time, in 2-3 years, Curry's probably going to retire. Like it'll be like the Warriors will be going into a brand new direction, and Kerr will be out looking for a new job. But regardless,
I don't even know, man.
We kind of got a little off topic there with fantasy.
No, we're fine with it.
Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich.
I love that you took it there, to be honest with you. That's the rabbit hole I needed to go down there. That's why I love doing this show, Charlie. Don't you ever apologize for taking me down a rabbit hole if it's going to be that entertaining, my friend. Because now all I'm thinking about is Wembanyama shooting at a higher three-point efficiency and nobody guarding it. And then once you trap it outside, he's going to go drive in on you and put the family jewels on someone's forehead, right? Then even if you build the wall against it, congratulations. He's going to hit a Magic Johnson pass behind his back because that's how well he's going to develop, and he's going to be unstoppable. The only thing that's going to hurt that guy is if he doesn't put on a little more muscle.
Yeah, the league is screwed. That's essentially what it comes down to. Wembanyama is coming. It could be next year, it could be the year after that, but he is coming. He's going to be the number one player in the league.
I'm just hoping that the Lakers just throw a stupid amount of money at him. And he's like, I'm kind of sick of San Antonio. I want to go be a star. But I'm not even going to lie. I myself would want to live in San Antonio, so that's not even going to happen. But I can dream.
I also can't wait in 20 years when people want to bring up how many All-Stars Wembanyama played with. Like how when people bring up, oh, LeBron played with Shaq. People are going to be like, oh, Wemby played with Chris Paul. Like, just like this.
Yeah. So don't get me wrong. I understand that playing with a certain caliber of talent absolutely needs to be in the conversation, right? At times, 100%. However, I don't hold Shaq against LeBron. Shaq wasn't doing nothing but eating up a spot on the bench, right? Yeah. And eating up salary. And Chris Paul, as we said, it's just for development. It ain't gonna. Now, don't get me wrong. Imagine, right? Speaking of taking us down rabbit holes, imagine, they make another giant signing. And they develop, and then boom, they're off to the races, and Wembanyama wins one this year. That's insane. It's not gonna happen though.
Not gonna happen. I mean, maybe a play-in tournament game. A play-in game. Who knows? I think if Wembanyama takes enough of a leap, he could be good enough to will the Spurs there. But even if they're having a season like last year, I could see them shipping Chris Paul off at the trade deadline for a pick or two or a player. If it came to that. But regardless, Chris Paul, San Antonio Spur, what kind of weird thing to say. If you had said that to somebody 10 years ago, that'd be quite the I don't know. It would freak some basketball fans out.
I feel like it's just like a move that like the league has silently been waiting for years of what would, like, we already saw what Tony Parker was capable of. What would a Popovich offense look like if it had an elite passer, not just like an A- playmaker? I would say Tony Parker, right? If you go and get an A+ playmaker and Chris Paul, what would that have looked like? It would have been interesting, but sadly, we keep on seeing all these guys joining these teams way past the time that we wanted it to happen.
So moving on to Chris Paul's former team, the Los Angeles Clippers, who are now left for the first time in 4 or 5 years without Paul George on the roster. So James Harden was a free agent. He re-signed on a 2-year, $70 million deal. Mazz, to you, is that a Clippers choosing James Harden over Paul George, or is that is that more of just, I think Paul George is leaving, let's try and bring back who we can, whose deals have expired?
Well, as we know, like, that deal came before Paul George even opting out. I think he looked at it as, Not that like, oh, you gave my money there, more so as you prioritize getting that done before bringing me back. Are you serious? I bet. I'm out of here. Clearly, you're not valuing me. I'm not getting I've done just as much for this organization as Kawhi Leonard has, and you secured that up. You paid him what he was supposed to get paid. I've been putting up a similar stat line, right? I've been on the court maybe a little more than Kawhi's been, and I'm not getting that compensation. And now you're going to go lock up James Harden before you prioritize getting me done? Bet I'm out of here. I also think that they're paying just a little bit too much for 19 points. Granted, you got the assist, but also, like, you know, he was assisting Paul George.
Yeah,
this season.
35 a year for Harden in the year 2024. Not sure if that's great business.
I don't think it's great business. I think that's just, hey, we can't lose another one. We can't lose out on both of them.
Okay.
You know, so let's try. This is a playmaker. This is a guy that we know that's going to be running the point for us. You know, he's done some solid things. They made some noise this year, but it quickly went back to the Clippers being. You know how we talk about the Jets are going to jet? The Clips are going to trip. That's it. The Clips are going to trip. Every time, man. That's just what it comes down to. I feel bad for their owner because I appreciate him trying to. He's such a passionate fan and he wants this team to be great. He makes all-in moves, but maybe not the right ones. I feel bad for him, but I got no love for the Clippers. As I said, go to San Diego. Go to Seattle. Get out of the city. We don't want you.
Excuse me. You can't say that they don't swing for the fences whenever they.
No, they do.
They do. But
every time. He goes for the home run every time, and I wish he was my owner, right? Because at least I can have some faith instead of just sitting here with Genie. I'm in purgatory, and I don't really know what we're doing. We're half rebuilding. We're not rebuilding. Our best guy is going to be 40. Our second best guy is literally made of glass. Are we going to move on? Are we not going to move on? What is this? Are we even able to attract big talent like we used to be able to? Because we couldn't even get Klay Thompson, for crying out loud.
Yeah, that side note, that one made so much sense to me with his dad being a Laker and all that stuff, and he decided to go to Dallas. I just can't believe that. I don't know. Regardless, I didn't mean to stick another jab in your side there.
No, I'm gonna. No, you're fine, man. It's weird too because I feel like ever since Klay was like emerging, it was like it's only a matter of time before the Lakers come swooping in. You know, like that was just like a thing.
It was.
And now he's like. And he was like, I could go be a Laker, but nah, I'm going to go compete for championships, even though I kind of could have competed for championships with the Lakers, but they were closer last year, literally in the final. I'm going down there.
Well, regardless, sticking with the Clippers, Russell Westbrook opted into the second year of his deal, but the Clippers are like, we're going to look to trade you.
Why wouldn't you?
Denver's reportedly interested after they lost Reggie Jackson in free agency. They're looking for a backup point guard. That could be something that would make sense there. Russ as the sixth man in Denver.
I thought they traded Reggie Jackson. My bad, but that would be interesting.
It would be interesting.
Russell Westbrook is such like a complex and a guy, man. Like we went from being this is legitimately a top 2 to 3 point guard in the NBA. At one point, the most athletic player in the entire league, pound for pound. But it didn't work with the Lakers. I wanted that to work. He
aged poorly. That's what it comes down to.
Because there's no shooting.
Yeah.
There's still no shooting. Yeah. You know, they call him West Brick at times for a reason. You know, he's still a playmaker. The athleticism's gone down. He can still cook second units, but without the shooting, there's a limited role that you're going to be able to play.
Yeah, there's a way you can guard him effectively without him doing a whole lot of damage to your team. But moving on, staying with the Clippers, they lost Paul George but replaced him with Derrick Jones Jr., who had himself a nice nice playoff run with the Mavericks, and Kevin Porter Jr., who has been overseas for the last year or so. Clippers, I mean, they really... I don't know if they got like that much worse, like substantially. They lost Paul George, but they replaced him with depth. You know what I mean? So like, well, who knows? We'll see.
They're going nowhere. It don't matter. They ain't going nowhere. You know.
The problem is they couldn't blow it up because they're moving into that new arena next year and they have to sell tickets. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like They're almost like a fake contending team. Like they want the fans to think so that they buy the tickets, but they're not. They're like, yeah, but we're actually not going to be really winning much this year. So
I feel like it was like it was a Houdini, right? They pulled a Houdini. It's like, look, we made these moves. Look, this guy was in the finals, contributed to winning basketball. We're gonna bring back this guy who has been cooking overseas, and let's see what he can do. We know that the core hasn't been working out, but we're still bringing back similar faces that you love. But we're minus one guy who was our second star, so you shouldn't even be that mad. And come to the new arena. We need the money. They pulled a Houdini, man. They absolutely scammed this crowd. They're going nowhere. I said what I said.
Nah, most definitely. But that's it for the Clippers for now, as their roster shapes up for the upcoming season. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signs a 3-year, $66 million deal with the Orlando Magic. KCP. These last few years in Denver has been an elite two-way player, elite shooter, and also plays good defense. Finally, the Magic get some three-point shooting, because that was probably one of their biggest weaknesses last year in the first round against Cleveland. Is they just offensively, they just couldn't shoot the ball. I mean, they were playing great defense, but when the ball came to the offensive end, it was basically, Paolo, please do something. You know what I mean? Your mic's muted.
My apologies, bro. My apologies. This is a guy who has risen his stock since being on the Lakers, and it's just like, oh, 3-and-D. This is the guy. And I always felt like he just underperformed, like for like the Lakers. Like, yes, he contributed to the chip, but I was like, bro, he ain't what he's supposed to be. And then, just like every other guy, they leave the Lakers, they build a name for themselves, goes and contributes over at Denver, and now plays himself into a fat contract. And listen, I want the Magic to be good. I think that this is a good piece for them, as they're trying. Like, we keep on talking about everybody else. Orlando's building something down there, and they're doing it the traditional way of, hey, we're not going to be getting in big signings. We're going to go pay some good depth pieces, but our stars are going to be that homegrown talent. I'm not even mad at it. I don't think that this gets them into the next stratosphere, but I think it's definitely a good piece that's going to help them compete. And it all depends on Banchero developing and Wagner, getting back. And if their young fellas can grow into what they think that can be.
Yeah, and they had a lot of cap space this summer. They also re-signed sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, Gogo Bitadze, who I was kind of hoping the Knicks would pick up. But I think Orlando is going to be a top. It's safe to say they'll be a top 6 team in the East this year. I think they'll take another step in terms of development, because they have so many of those young guys. And Paolo is going to be a guy who will probably be a top 5 player in the East throughout his prime. Just my opinion, but that's how I feel about Orlando.
Watching him play against Cleveland, I was impressed, bro. He's got a bag. There's something. Oh man. There's something about guys from Duke that I just like hate on automatically. I think I prefer the Tar Heels, even though I'm a Miami fan. There's just something about Duke guys. I'm not rooting for them. I don't want to see it. Like, Cooper Flagg's coming up, and it's like, bro, good talent, but screw you too. JJ did this. I blame JJ for this. It was happening way before JJ. But man, I can't even lie. Banchero and the kid, half Italian. I root for my heritage, so half Italian. See the Portuguese flag, like I'm rooting for him. But I think something's brewing down in Orlando. I don't think it's ever going to be a chip, but I think it's going to be one of those teams that you just see is going to compete. Like, I think like 4 or 5 years is when we're really going to see like the height of it. And they're going to make their way into a 2K game. They're going to be a fun team like Gilbert Arenas' Wizards, but they're not going to do much.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, they have a chance for sure. I mean, Paolo could evolve.
Everybody has a chance.
Yeah. They'll be a tough out for anybody who gets them in the playoffs. Like, I'd love to see a Orlando Boston first round match, like playoff series. That would be, I think, a lot of fun. A lot of length on length crime there. Moving on to Isaiah Hartenstein, former Knicks center, signs a 3-year, $87 million deal with OKC. Thunder finally get a backup center for Chet, and the Knicks lose Isaiah Hartenstein due to CBA restrictions. They were only allowed to give him a 4-year, $72 million contract, and that was never going to compete with what he could have gotten on the open market. OKC's giving him fun fact: Isaiah Hartenstein this year has a higher cap hit than Jalen Brunson.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Is that unbelievable?
What was that contract? That's what in the hell?
Yeah,
Dude,
Brunson's contract is a descending contract. So it's ever since he signed it, it's gotten lower and lower and lower. Yeah, Brunson is making $24.9 million this year. Hartenstein is getting 29.
What was that contract that he ended up signing?
Isaiah Hartenstein?
Yeah.
It was 3 years, $87 million. So that's 29 a year. For your backup center. Your backup center.
Yeah. They overpaid like crazy. I'm a fan of Hartenstein, dude. That guy, outside of Brunson, might have been my favorite Knick, low key. Like I love DiVincenzo, but they gotta stop calling him Ragu, bro. That's disrespectful, man. You don't call an Italian man Ragu. You know what I'm saying? That's just like you're calling him a fake Italian, man. Like I don't like that at all. But Hartenstein, like he's up there, bro. I love the way that he plays. I love the way that he came in. I'm heartbroken if I'm a Knicks fan that you couldn't keep him, but I understand, and I can't even be mad at him because here's the fact of the matter, right? Yes. You are leaving the team that you raised your profile with. That is going all in. So you're going to be missing out on those festivities. However, you got paid more and you're joining a team who has the same potential capabilities on the other side. OKC was what, the 2 seed this past season? You know, 1 seed. They ended up getting into the 1 seed. All right. So this is a team who had a better, not even if they were the 2 seed, which they weren't, it was a better record than what the Knicks have. Dare I say a better team, although I think just the Knicks just have this aura around them now. There's like this magic in the air throughout the subways of New York of anything is possible. And finally, we don't have to be upset all the time when it comes to our sports teams in the basketball realm. But OKC Shea was right up there for top scorer in the league. Been developing like crazy. They have a great young core who's been competing. They got to the similar spot as the Knicks last year. Like, you're not really downgrading. If anything, like, you just got paid to go to at least the same level, maybe a little higher of a team, depending on where you have it. Like, they're not far away from each other.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. The only thing for me is you're paying this guy Hartenstein so much money. You're like we said, you're paying him $29 million a year to be your backup center. Like I understand the thought process. Like they're not gonna have to pay Chet until Hartenstein's contract expires, but just to me, it's just not a great allocation of resources. I mean, I guess they're already locked on most of their other core guys. You just brought in Caruso, but yeah, for the Thunder, if you're not the 1 seed again next year, if you're not making a conference finals, that's a failure of a season because you added to a team that went 6 games in the conference semifinals. You got to, and the same thing goes for the Knicks. You have to make the conference finals. You have to improve. Like no one's going to accept the same results you've got in the last few seasons. Everyone's expecting the leap forward. It's time to take it.
Once again, right? Had the Knicks paid them what they were maxed out capable of, everybody would have been fine with that. Oh, bring the guy back. This is for chemistry, this and that. But he played himself into a higher profile than what he probably is. And if he can bring that level of effort, I'm fine with overpaying that a little bit because if it translates onto the court. I've said this multiple times. I want guys that are going to go out there and claw for everything on that court as opposed to a guy that has all this talent but just doesn't have that hunger, you know? So I think Hartenstein has that hunger. I think the Knicks are really going to miss him. I think you guys need a backup center desperately. And dare I say, you should have tried to trade Mitch and keep Hartenstein. I think he played that well. I think he filled the hole that well.
So the problem is, even if they did trade Mitch, they still couldn't have matched the contract that OKC gave Hartenstein.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
Isn't it silly?
Like, Like you're clearing up space. Why can't I allocate that to the player? That makes absolutely no sense. Bro, that's stupid.
The most they could offer him was 4 years, $72 million. That's it. It's ridiculous.
That is legit. Bro, okay. I'm going to take us down a side street here. If you set the cap limit, right? And there's a floor, you know what I'm saying? Like the floor and the ceiling. However I choose to spend that money should be on me. Right? I can understand that, hey, this guy made an all-star team or has averaging this amount. You have to pay him this amount of money. Like you can't underpay it because that's how you keep it fair. But if I want to overpay a guy, God damn it, I'm going to overpay the guy. That you can't, as long as I'm under the number, you should not be allowed to tell me what I'm only allowed to pay this guy as long as I am under the ceiling and above the floor. Right? So if I choose to get X amount of players off my roster and take their salaries and put it into this guy to secure him coming here, you should not be allowed to not tell me that. Like, I understand that they're trying to keep the league fair, this and that, but like, this is the dumbest thing ever when you see teams go over the salary cap for stars because they're going to pay whatever and just take the luxury tax with it. That's just stupid. Like, I don't understand how this is transparency. If anything, you are hurting the league for transparency. Yes, he went to another team. Yes, they were able to give him the other money, but like that is unfair to me if I'm willing to get that money allocated over to him. That's just the dumbest thing I ever heard of. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. This new CBA is looking to be the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah, it's not great. But what's looking even worse is the fact that the Knicks are now in the market for a new backup center because Mitchell Robinson slides into the starting lineup, of course, and he misses games. So you need to find a good backup. And as I'm looking on Spot Track right now, the current available free agent centers, we have Rashawn Holmes, Mo Wagner, Daniel Tice, Tristan Thompson, Cody Zeller, JaVale McGee, Thomas Bryant, and this sucks, man. This sucks.
Hold on. There's some names I would actually kind of be interested in. If this was like 2 years ago, JaVale McGee would have been my top choice. Not going to lie to you. Me crazy? Daniel Tice could be that guy, I feel like. Daniel Tice is a guy we've seen go out there, fight for teams like, man, he's not going to, whoever you bring in is not going to change the game, right? You just need somebody that's going to go out there and be willing to fight on that court. I think Daniel Tice has proven that in his career that he's willing to do that. I actually think that's my number one pick out of the guys you just named. And if it works out, I look like a genius. And if not, there wasn't much to work with to begin with anyway.
There really was not.
You know?
It might be. Yes. Might have to be a trade acquisition from somewhere. We'll see.
Yeah. You know, because other than that, like, yes, you can go younger, and I understand wanting to do that, but yeah, man, whoever it's going to be, you just have to make sure, buddy, your role is to go out there, and we literally need you to be an enforcer. Other guys are getting roughed up a little bit. You need to be the first one in there getting and taking those hits for it. I need a physical player. I need your effort on defense like you are playing like there is a match under your butt, all right? And on offense, just don't be an idiot. Like, you don't got to be the star. Just don't be an idiot. Get me rebounds, play defense, protect my guys. That's what I'm looking to bring in right now. And you never even know, you might play yourself into a starting role and go get a bigger contract the following year because there is no guarantee that Mitch Robinson's going to be on that court. However, this core is coming, and just being a part of it's going to make you look better than you actually are.
I'm with you there. Mazz, remember we were talking earlier about Jonas Valanciunas and him being... I think we both agree that he was a better player right now than Isaiah Hartenstein, right?
Absolutely.
So Valanciunas signed a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Wizards, and Hartenstein signed the three-year, $87 million deal with the Thunder. Valanciunas is making $10 million a year for the next 3 years. Hartenstein is making $29 million for the next 3 years.
I'm very curious real quick. Hold on. I'm on basketballreference.com real quick. Jonas, as they spell it, Valanciunas. Let's go see what the Lithuanian brother put up this year. Because I'm sorry, I like Hartenstein a lot. Like, I'm a fan after watching him play, but yeah, there ain't no way. I refuse to believe that he had a better year
He didn't.
than what my man Jonas put up. If my computer will load here,
The only thing,
there's no way.
It's
Physically impossible. That's why this doesn't make any sense.
So Valanciunas had 4 more points per game. They had the same amount of rebounds. Hartenstein had
come on, he almost had a 19.8 points for the season, and I get to get. He's a less cap hit. This does not. Hartenstein, what would Hartenstein put up? Like just under 10 points?
He averaged 8 points per game.
Bro, what are we doing? Bro, if there's a world where they acquire Jonas Valanciunas, sign me up. I'm rooting the damn Knicks because once again, Godfather moves. I can get behind that all day. Bro, that is the key to the I think you secure the championship if you bring in Jonas Valanciunas. And Mitch is now your backup. Bro. Oh
yeah.
my. I know what you're going to be doing on 2K the next couple of months.
Well, unfortunately, he signed with the Wizards, so he is no longer available to be signed by anybody else, which stinks because he would have been a great replacement for Hartenstein, exactly. But I guess like you said, could make a trade, potentially.
So hear me out, though, right? You're willing to part with some of those guys with what you got, right? Like, that's a move that I think could take you to the next level, bro. You got to go acquire that. You get that in the starting lineup. Like, dude, he ain't got injury history. Like, he could take the contact. Like, bruh, he could play with a 4 that scores. He could shoot threes a bit too, you know? Like, he's not just some bum that is outdated. Like, he's got a nice variation of the modern center. It's not the pinnacle of it, but it's solid. And a guy like Valanciunas, I mean, man, if they're willing to part with it, Josh Hart, thank you. Let's get this package done, baby.
I don't know if I'm okay with that. I don't know if I'm willing to make that move. But that could be a mid-season acquisition that if things aren't going the way you like from your center position, then you make the trade. Not something you do right now, though, I would say.
No, you're right. But, dude, imagine if they acquired that, bro. That would have been insane.
Kind of crazy.
I'm telling you, bro. That's what you got to go rebuild that on 2K ASAP.
I was interested in James Wiseman as well. He was a free agent, but he signed with the Pacers, as you mentioned earlier. He's kind of a young guy. Was the
Is
second
that any
overall
indication?
Pick.
Is that any indication for you that Miles Turner's on his way out of Indiana? Because we've been hearing about it for how long now?
After this most recent playoff run, absolutely not. No way. He's the backup. They lost their backup center to I think he went to Chicago. So they needed somebody.
I don't know, man. Like I said, if I'm Indiana, you strike while the iron's hot, bro. You got to make trades for these guys before you get nothing for it. We've been hearing that Miles Turner's leaving for the last 2-3 seasons, and he's been linked to the Lakers every single time, and nothing ever occurs from it. If you built up Miles Turner, Wiseman was definitely the higher draft pick out of the two of them, you know. So maybe you try and build up Wiseman and get that compensation. I'd like to see that.
Maybe we'll see what happens, see what goes from there, but. Moving on to the latest news that broke this morning that I saw as I was arising. We had Donovan Mitchell signing a 3-year, $150 million contract with the Cavaliers. He's back. He's not leaving, at least for the next 3 years. But, of course, on the surface, this is a short-term deal. It's only 3 years. This is not 4 or 5 like he could have done if he wanted to. He decided to take a shorter deal to see, I guess, how the Cavaliers build out this roster going forward.
So he definitely signed this up because, okay, we got a new coach in here. I'm willing to take a shot one more time with you guys. You know, like, let's see what we can accomplish here. Kenny Atkinson is going to change them for sure. The problem is that the entire conference got better as well in terms of like the heavy hitters up there, right? So they still need to figure out something because they don't have the roster that's getting them to the promised land. Even with Kenny Atkinson bringing over some new tactics, better scheming and stuff, it's just they're not going anywhere with it. And I've said this before. It does not seem like Donovan Mitchell wants to be there. If they don't make serious noise this next year, you have to consider trading him. I know everybody wants Garland to be out of there, but it seems like Garland actually wants to be there. And I'd rather the guy who wants to be here than the guy who always has his foot half out the door. You are going to get a haul for Donovan Mitchell. You have to consider that if you don't make some serious noise while he's still tradable.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. I mean, we saw that when Cleveland did trade for him, it was a boatload of picks and like 2-3 young players like in Lauri Markkanen and Colin Sexton who have a lot of upside. So when you're trading Donovan Mitchell, you're getting a haul back. That's for damn sure. But you're right, Mazz. I think you have a year or two here to keep building the roster out, even though they haven't made a single move in free agency yet, or even a trade. But something's got to change right now, though, because you can't run back this same roster and expect to make it back to the second round next year. You're going to see a Knicks team. You're going to see a Philadelphia team, an Orlando team that now has improved and took you 7 games in the first round. Kenny Atkinson, for me, doesn't move the needle in terms of, we're gonna get to the conference finals or even the NBA finals at that rate. I don't really know what Cleveland is doing here. But you're re-signing Donovan Mitchell, but what are you doing to get better and to get further and deeper into the playoffs? And that might cost you trading one of Garland or Mobley or Jared Allen. But they have to do something to change things up and shuffle the deck a little bit, because you're not running it back again next year and just saying, oh, sorry, we don't know what happened,
I think it's absolutely going to be Jared Allen that you see is going to be on the move from what I've been seeing.
I agree.
And I'm fine with that, because you want Mobley to, blossom more and play more of that big man role. And I think you have to keep Garland. That's a dog. He wants to be there. And let's be honest, how many times do people actually want to be in Cleveland? Come on, man. But here's the thing, though. Something else that you also have to consider, right? Donovan signs this short-term deal, so he's not even committing to you long-term, right? And the Knicks, who he was always linked to for trades, ain't getting him no more. So the biggest market out there, gone. I know he's been linked to Miami, but let's be honest, Pat Riley ain't giving up what the Knicks would have been willing to give up to get that deal done. So you really have to start thinking of, man, that market just closed. You have to test it out. I'm fine with bringing a talent like that back. Unless you have that guarantee, which you don't, that he's going to be here, you have to start thinking long-term with this, because you don't have the team to go all the way. They're a really good team, but their ceiling is a 4 seed and a second-round knockout.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like, adding Max Strus last year did not increase your championship capacity. Like, they don't do enough to maximize the roster around guys like Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And I also wouldn't hate if they traded Garland either, because it's his production, everything has gone down since the acquisition of Donovan Mitchell. Garland was on an upward trajectory. I remember watching him almost take down the KD Kyrie Nets in the play-in tournament a few years ago by himself or with Jared Allen. And he's, ever since Donovan Mitchell arrived and they've taken the ball out of his hands, it just has not worked as well as it should. And I'm not saying you should trade Garland just because. I'm saying if you can get another star in here, like a Brandon Ingram or some sort of like I'm thinking of a forward star. You know what I mean? Like if they could have gotten Paul George or something like that. Like I think that would have been a good move for them. But they seem so stuck in, we're going to make this core work. This core is going to work. They will ascend, and it's not going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, and you can't be banking on it going into year 3 of the Donovan Mitchell experiment. You know what I mean?
Sure, but the problem is that the Pelicans aren't going to want Darius Garland because they got CJ McCollum, and they just acquired another guard who fills that role, playing on the perimeter, playing good defense. but only he doesn't need the ball in the hands as much, right? And now you look at the Clippers, Paul George is gone. You're not getting that deal done either. So where is that trade going to be if you're going to try to move on from Garland to get in a high-profile wing? If you're really looking for that wing, it's going to be acquired through a trade of Donovan Mitchell. That's the fact. Otherwise, I don't think that there's going to be a player out there that really moves the needle for me that is going to necessarily be able to pair with Donovan Mitchell, because Garland, there's a market for him, but I don't think you're getting a giant star in return that they're looking for.
Probably not.
Unless you have to package Allen and Garland, now we're moving the needle a bit. But even then, who's really out there?
All right, ready? Here we go. Darius Garland, Jared Allen, Isaac Okoro, and 4 first-round picks for LeBron and AD.
You're smoking crack. I need you to stop this nonsense. If you want to take me down a rabbit hole, that is perfectly fine. Don't waste my time with that one, though. Don't do it. All right, listen. Stop. Stop.
Right.
I've been thinking the entire time, too, about how, like, Cleveland is just like all those teams that the Patriots have fleets where it's like, you know, we're going to bring in the guy that the competent organization like Miami made look better than they did. And now we're going to go bring in a Max Strus. And the Lakers bring in Gabe Vincent. Like, Miami's just cranking out talent that overperforms. It's like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, go ahead. Go have him. We're not reading him up. We know what he is. We've got the absolute best out of him. You're not going to get that. And maybe we just might get some compensation for it. Or we're fine with letting him walk. You go overpay him. I'm not overpaying him.
It's a good point.
Where are we going?
It does bring back memories of guys like a Chandler Jones, although he had a pretty successful career. I'm trying to think of Gerard Mayo, a linebacker who got paid elsewhere, didn't do much. Trey Flowers, but we're getting off topic. That's a football conversation for another week. But Mazz, I think that's really about it in terms of NBA free agency. We touched on a lot of the player acquisitions.
You missed the biggest move ever. JB Bickerstaff to Detroit and Tobias Harris, baby. We got rid of Monty Williams to bring in JB and Tobias Harris. That's going to change everything. What are they going to do? Win 5 more games and just get back to being absolutely nowhere? I mean, what are we thinking? And on top of that, we're going to eat Monty Williams' contract. Listen, for any team out there who has some superstars, who's looking to get over the hump, I mean, listen, you talked about Steve Kerr. Monty Williams might be the next coach of the Spurs, for crying out loud. This is a guy who's been known to get the best out of players. Yes, I know. Detroit lost 3 more games than they did the year before. It is a horrible roster. You got a guy like Tobias Harris who is going to put up empty stats, and you're not winning any more games. And even if you do, it's not 20 more. You're not changing your seeding that much. Stop this. Monty's the problem, though, right? I guarantee Monty is going to take over a job with actual stars and get back to winning basketball. Monty's going to come away with a chip within this next decade. You watch.
Monty Williams, the guy who took over a 20-win Pistons team and somehow did worse with them after adding Cade Cunningham.
All the offset, all the assets. Your best guys
I can't believe you're calling Bojan Bogdanovic and Alec Burks assets, dude. That's sad.
They're the only things that they had working outside of Cade. Who else was there? That was their best chance of anything. They got worse from an already doo-doo roster, bro. All right, this is as bottom of a roster as it gets.
They broke the NBA losing streak record.
The rest of the NBA got better while they got worse.
They didn't trade those guys till the deadline, and they broke the losing streak before the deadline. Monty Williams is not a good coach.
That's such a lie, bro. He got more out of DeAndre Ayton than anybody was ever capable of getting out of DeAndre Ayton. He's a guy that Booker developed under, all right? Booker played himself into being a star under Monty Williams. Phoenix has actually have the capability of bringing in some star power and making some moves because of the foundation that Monty Williams brought up and, dare I say, drew up the Mona Lisa of basketball in the Valley Oop, the greatest play I've ever seen drawn up in clutch time, and it worked out. And guess who was the focal point of it? DeAndre Ayton, a guy who never should have been the number 1 overall pick, and he made him look awesome. He's made Devin Booker play to this kind of level that we think that he could be the next great one that he's never going to live up to. He's the reason why Phoenix has some damn hope. I guarantee he is going to get another shot in this league. He is going to do great. Yes, he did not develop the Pistons in 1 goddamn year. Yes, they lost 3 more games or 5 more games or whatever the hell it was than the previous year. This is a horrible franchise. They have not been good since 2004. Oh, and let's not forget, they were incompetent that year too. They passed up on Carmelo friggin' Anthony to bring in Darko Milicic. Do not talk to me that this is Monty Williams' fault, okay? This is Detroit. They are the bottom of basketball. They are the worst franchise besides maybe the Wizards. They are horrible. Yes, they've won 1 championship within the last 20 years because they had some really good moves, and Rip, Chauncey, and Ben Wallace and all the other guys came together and really put in a really great effort, and the stars just aligned, but it ain't happening again for them. It's not coming anywhere. They are horrible. They are not getting back to the bad boy Piston days. They are not going to see a star like Isaiah Thomas for quite some time unless they develop him. And do not sit here and tell me that you have all the faith in them developing him. Yes, Cade Cunningham could be the next great one. The next great what, though? Michael Carter-Williams putting up all these stats and winning absolutely no games, because that's where it's going to get you, Chucky boy. Going nowhere. B-League, G-League team. I swear to God, I think I'd rather be playing for like the Sioux Falls team or whatever. They're not good. They need to be better. I want to see them do good. But they ain't it, bro.
I think there's no better place to end off this episode than right there. After that legendary Mazz tirade about the Detroit Pistons. I never knew you could get so passionate about the Detroit Pistons, but
I'm not passionate about Detroit Pistons. I'm passionate about Monty Williams, bro.
Okay, my bad. I didn't know you could get so passionate about Monty Williams. My apologies. And,
Dude, this is a guy who was a top 5 coach before he joined that bum organization. And you know what? He's still out on top. He went 1 year, does not have to deal with the headaches, does not have to deal with, oh, well, where's the results coming from, this and that. Baby. I got a legendary contract as a coach. 1 year, I fleeced the hell out of you, and I'm going to go eat potato chips on my couch until a place calls that I actually give a damn about being in. Standing applause for Monty Williams, baby. Standing applause. I love you, buddy. You kill this league. You get after there, and you become the next great one. The Spurs, go get you a Monty Williams. If JJ doesn't work out and Dan Hurley don't want to come, Rob Pelinka, you better pick up your Rob Lowe-looking ass and call Monty Williams, baby.
Yeah, but Monty does not have to take a job for the next few years because the Detroit Pistons will be paying him, I think, like $20-25 million a year for the next 4 years at least. So
just retire right now, bro. Yeah. He won life.
I love
that guy. He won.
That is the ultimate winning right there. You literally are getting paid to do nothing. So congratulations to Monty Williams, and best of luck to JB Bickerstaff as he takes his first steps into probably the worst franchise in the NBA right now.
Thank you. Once again, this has been the Mazz and Bad Show. Listen, that's just where we're at, baby. We appreciate you. Go follow, like, subscribe, show us that love. We building something here. It's just the beginning. And listen, just like Monty, we win it.